Welcome back to Ferris Sports Update. Time to check in with women's basketball. I'm joined by head coach Kurt Westendorp. Coach, welcome to the show.
Glad to be back.
I know kind of a unusual week this past week, just one game. Had a chance really to get some practice in before you made the trip to Lake Superior State.
Yeah, it was good for us to have that week of prep, a week of rejuvenation we kind of talked about, trying to really get our legs under us for this stretch run early in the week, making sure we had a little bit extra time off, and then later in the week we turned our attention to Lake State, and they're always tough to play when you got to go across the bridge. You know, you take the 4-hour bus ride, you know, you got to get out, shake the bus legs a little bit, get it going, and they always play well at home. So we knew it was going to be a challenge coming into the game, and the game kind of proved that out with how the first half and the second half were really different games. But it was really an overall great week for us to kind of get those legs back under us, get a win on the road, and now turn our sights towards these last 3 weeks of the regular season.
Before we get to the win on the road, obviously this past week, the victory, you move up in the national rankings, number 2 in one pool, number 4 in the other. And I know the national rankings don't mean a whole lot, but certainly great recognition, again, as we've kind of mentioned for your program.
Well, it's nice that we're stacking wins on top of each other. We're showing some consistency. I think we're up to 10 wins in a row now, and you're not winning every game the same way. You know, we're winning some games with offense, winning some games a little more with defense. You know, some games, you know, our big scores are really carrying the load, and some games we have better balance. And that's great for us to see as we go into approaching March, because the rankings that are going to really start to matter more and more is once we start to see the NCAA regional rankings. You know, those are what's going to kind of determine our Midwest regional, you know, where we're going to be seated there, and we're in a great spot if we can play strong basketball down this stretch. You know, we could be in position to potentially host.
As we go to the highlights of the game at Lake Superior State, obviously Lake State came in, maybe not the record that would indicate what type of a team they are and how much improvement they've made.
Well, they always play well at home. Like I said earlier, they do a nice job of shooting the ball in their gym. They really compete. You know, they might be a little bit outsized in the post, which we took advantage of then in the second half. But they moved the ball really well. They attacked. They played with really good pace offensively, and they knocked down a bunch of threes in that first half. I want to say they hit 6 or 7 threes, you know, just in the first half. And I don't feel like our defense was poor, but we weren't quite up to our standard of getting hands in the faces, speeding them up a little bit like we did more in the second half. You know, I can maybe attribute that a little bit to, you know, the travel and just not coming out quite as sharp as we needed to be. But you also have to credit Lake State that it's a big game for them. There's a Saturday night game. There's a huge crowd in there. It's great, probably the biggest crowd I've ever coached in front of up in the Sioux. And they did just an awesome job of just, like you see there, there's a deep threes. You know, they moved the ball, got it to the paint, you know, driving and kicking. You know, they did a really excellent job, and we had to withstand that first half barrage and really keep up with them scoring, and then turn the page once we got to the second half.
Obviously, here at halftime, as we'll see, it'll be a 35-31 game at halftime. Maybe talk about what the emphasis was at halftime going into the second half.
You know, we knew that defensively we really needed to step it up. We're a really good team, and we can turn our defense into offense. You know, we can get stops and kind of get our transition game keyed up to where we can really get downhill. We can get the ball to the paint. You know, we can kick it for our threes. You know, if we're just having to play half-court offense the entire time, you know, we're a pretty efficient offense, but we're always going to be better when we can get stops and go. So not the start we wanted with them coming right out and getting a bucket to close it to 1, but I think then we closed the game on a pretty big run. We scored 59 points in this half. Lots of plays like that. Kenzie Bowers getting downhill. So trying to do a better job defensively, forcing them to throw more skip passes, take more tough outside shots. And then offensively, we had to attack them a lot harder than we did in the first half. The first half, we were kind of attacking the elbow and stopping. Second half, we did a lot better job getting all the way to the rim, which then opens up the ball to get moved. You saw Chloe there knocking down a 3 from the outside. You know, that might not have been the best transition defense right there, but we're able to get that ball up, get going, fire that ball inside. Maya did a great job, especially in that second half. Chloe did a great job. We got to the foul line. We were just really efficient offensively.
Obviously, here in the fourth quarter, able to play a lot of kids. All 13 played, all contributed, and for a couple kids close to home here in the Upper Peninsula.
Yeah, I think we talked last week on the show about, you know, these opportunities that some of the players that don't play heavy minutes in all the games, but when they get the opportunity, I love to see that the score, it continued to be, the lead continued to grow. You know, as we were subbing and playing different people, like we were playing good basketball. You know, that means they're doing a great job in practice. They're doing a great job of improving the things that we've been working on And like you said, we have 2 Yoopers, on the team. Claire is from right there in the Sioux, so it was great for her to have a great crowd. She had some family in from way out of town just to kind of see her play back in her hometown. And Allie Schultz from St. Ignace, her high school coaches were there. So was Claire's from the Sioux. I think he was on the broadcast actually for Lake State on that side. So it's great for the Yoopers to be able to play some games close to home. Their family can come see them play, and they performed really, really well.
Maybe talk about, we didn't see, obviously, an injury to Mallory McCarty a couple minutes into the second half, and just how kids stepped up maybe in her absence, obviously one of your team leaders.
Yeah, it's kind of an unfortunate play that happened, but those things are going to happen in the game of basketball, and we had to learn how to adapt and adjust. And every day in practice, she can only play point guard for one of the teams. So Grace Sullivan and Kenzie Bowers kind of pick up that slack, and they run that role. When their number is called upon. It hasn't been called upon as much during gameplay, but every day in practice, one of the teams is being point guarded by one of those 2 players. Sometimes they're both on that team together. So there are things that we worked on, and it just happened to be, called into duty, for most of that second half, and they did an excellent job. I didn't really feel like the offense skipped a beat. Obviously, scoring 59 points in that half, it's an excellent. It just really shows how deep we are, but it was you definitely miss Mallory McCartney out there because she's such a dynamic offensive player, with how she can read the floor, pass the basketball, shoot the basketball. So we have to do it in a little bit different ways, and hopefully we'll learn how to adjust a little bit if she happens to miss a little bit of time going forward.
Obviously this week back at home, nice to be back at home for your Final Six, and taking on 2 teams here for the second time in Saginaw Valley State and Wayne State here this weekend.
Yeah, it's another quick turnaround. I feel like it was a quick turnaround when we played Northern and Tech. It was only like 2 weeks prior that we played them, and it's the same thing. I feel like it was only 4 games ago that we were playing Saginaw, and they played us excellent at their place. They're way better than their record shows. I know we can say that about a lot of different teams, but defensively they gave us a lot of trouble. They're really tough. They rebounded the ball well. And offensively they played a great game getting the ball to the paint, shooting a really high percentage from 2. They didn't shoot the ball well from 3 last game, but that's something that we got to make sure that we shore up and really defend them a lot stronger than we did in the first game. And then offensively, just settle into a better rhythm. It was one of our poorer shooting games, but we found a way to win. Hopefully a little bit of home cooking, that ball really pops and moves, and we can get some fast break opportunities and shoot the ball better here at home against them in the second game.
Finally here, coming up on Saturday, you take on Wayne State, and it's the Play for K event put on by the GLIAC across the conference to really help support the research going into all cancers affecting women.
It's an awesome initiative. It started with a bunch of alums from NC State that played for Kay Yao, who was affected by breast cancer on and off through her entire coaching career, and unfortunately she lost that battle. But her players kind of carry on that torch and made it a national organization that raises money not just affecting breast cancer, but all cancers that affect women. So the GLIAC took it upon itself. Courtney Locke, the head coach at Purdue Northwest, really took an active role in organizing this, and we're trying to raise as much money as we can across the conference and really try to make as big of an impact as we can and educate our young women on just the dangers and what you can do to try to prevent those kind of health scares that happen.
Well, Coach, thanks for the time, and best of luck here this weekend, Thursday night at home and Saturday afternoon here at home.
Looking forward to it.
We'll be back with more Ferris Sports Update right after this.